Hello, everyone, and welcome to VEX Warfield. I am VEX, your host. And first thing I want to say is hello, everyone. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're tuning in, and we got something special for you going on tonight. Um, Sean StRyKeR got a hold of me a little while ago and said, I really need to vent, and it can do us a lot of good as far as we, the people, as a whole. So, I can't say no. Now, granted, this probably won't be a marathon stream or anything like that. We're going to go ahead and dump out some information on you. And if we get some questions in chat, we'll go ahead and bring them up and we'll see if we can get some information out there for everyone. All right. Without further ado, I give you Sean StRyKeR from Riverside. Hello, Sean. Welcome.
Good evening, Vex. Thanks for having me. It's a busy day today. You got anything to ask me before we get down to the brass tacks?
Well, I would ask, essentially, you got yourself all fired up today. What, in general, can you say for the audience out here that's listening that would kind of encapsulate or whet their appetite for what's coming?
Well, those who follow different patriot activities, sometimes they find themselves in the wrong group. And this doesn't mean they're necessarily evil people. They could be misled.
Mm-hmm.
The people who do the misleading, though, woe unto them. I'm not going to get too biblical, but I think some of these people knowingly deceive patriots out there, whether it's, folks who are only concerned about selling a T-shirt or, buy this product, buy that product. Okay, those are the grifters. But then there's other ones who have more subtle and more nuanced things. They're going to teach you your constitutional rights for $200 a pop, or they're going to, do this for you, but you got to give them your right arm and your firstborn son. And by the way, sign these things away, et cetera, et cetera.
You
The
said
one
constitutional rights. That kind of struck a nerve with me.
there's constitutional rights and there's God-given rights. I prefer my God-given rights, but people are dumb enough to even give up their constitutional rights, which are farther down the food chain.
Well, actually, let's throw this little tidbit in. Constitutional rights are what? The rights of the government, or government given rights to the people who work for the government. Is that kind of it?
It's both that, and it's also, again, the government realizing it can't do X, Y, or Z to the people that work for it or the people that it administrates over. And it's really us telling them they can't do this versus them saying we give you permission. So people got to
Exactly.
understand that. There was a good stream earlier today by 10th Amendment Center, by the way, about the word constitutionality or constitutional. So that little stream must have gotten my brain thinking, because I am looking at documents that were put out recently. And these documents, one of them is the right way to do things, and one of them is regrettably the wrong way to do things. And you folks have to vet who you're following, do your due diligence, because some of you will get trapped in situations you cannot fix. There are some people, for example, who want to have you expatriate yourself. Good luck asking the corporation of the United States that we know about. Good luck asking their permission to leave and then asking for their permission to come back in the back door. They're not going to let you do it, guys. You relented on having any perks within their system, and you don't even understand enough to know that you don't need to re-enter their system. You're supposed to be standing in the common law way of life at that point. So you clearly weren't prepped. So going with that particular mindset, some people get caught in that swinging door and they don't realize that's the trap. Kind of like that swinging door in front of the judge. Once you pass that door, yeah, not a good thing.
Yeah, you enter their jurisdiction, which they have
Correct.
full control over.
So why would you go out only to try to go back in? Guess what? They're not going to let you back in. You pulled the personal move of seceding, like the states did in the Civil War when they seceded from the Union. And again, rather than doing a process to come back in, like fixing the sine die status of Congress, or sine die, depending on how you want to pronounce it, you're stuck in limbo, folks. And that's the problem, is there's no remedy for that limbo unless you want to wait sometimes 10 years or longer to eventually regain your perks as part of the union.
Okay.
So with that, I kind of want to read the right way of doing something versus the wrong way. Both of these public notices occurred within this month of March 2022. And you're going to see the example of the right way to draft something. And it was powerfully worded, well worded, correctly worded. And, by gosh, I'm very proud of the people who put it out there because they're showing people how to get things done. And then you're going to see a complete contrast. And there's also just different ways that these words and these bits of information were put out. So first of all credit going to the folks at alaskadejure.org, the Alaska General Jural Assembly. They provide us with an example of a public notice and instructions to their governor, the governor of Alaska, Michael Dunleavy, in a correct format. If they did not have the confidence to do this because they did something wrong, then they would not have addressed him by name or by position. And you'll hear that in a moment. So what we're going to do tonight with VEX here moderating me so I don't go too long for you listening, we are going to read through a order essentially issued to Michael Dunleavy. You're going to hear how it's structured, how it's worded. It's not the largest document ever. And maybe Dex can screen share it. I'm not certain, but you'll notice it's in blue font. That's a big deal for those of us who know what we're talking about. It has a simple seal in the background or watermark. There's all kinds of qualifiers that it hits. And I'm very happy to have looked at it to see an example of what we, the people in assembly, can actually accomplish. And again, it's kind of putting the brass balls on the table. And because I recognize the elements in it, Dunleavy's going to have to comply with this, or there's going to be penalties for him not doing so. And that's for another day. Let's get into the letter. Before I do so, Vex, do you have any questions or anything from the chat or the comments? Anyone's
actually,
live right now?
Real quick, I'd like you to give a little background as far as Alaska goes and why this is so important and how they've kind of got to this point, at least briefly.
Well, for those who remember, Alaska is the most recently added state of the Union. And Alaska was not properly settled in terms of becoming a state. People were not on the land under the common law or under the regular law. I believe they had bureaus instead of counties. There was a lot of shortcuts they took when Russia decided to give Alaska over to the United States. You may hear in the news that Russia was talking about reabsorbing Alaska, which was when people hear about that, they're going to look at Alaska and be like, well, what's the history of Alaska and Russia? What's going on over there? And this timing is really wonderful because this document addresses that as well. I'm a history nerd, and Vex, I think you're a bit of a history nerd. The British Empire and the British Empire and the Russians have been butting heads since the Revolutionary War. If you look at the Treaty of Paris, there were a lot of countries that swapped territories and stuff, and Russia's had our back, folks. It had our backs up until certain powers in Europe, the Crown, the Vatican, the Bolsheviks, infiltrated Russia and turned it into the USSR to, basically create a dual world system. And eventually, with the collapse of the USSR, the United States was supposed to take over as the one monopower, aka the Anglo-American establishment. Well, Russia, as we see on the international stage right now, is regaining some prominence. And they're still our allies, just a lot of folks, we call them the neocons, the heirs of the Trotskyites out of Mexico. Basically, they're just slower moving communists. But anything that's Russia, they hate because, Trotsky was killed and they still have a hate on. You can look up, I believe it was Bill McChrystal. He was instrumental in getting their faction into the Republican Party and helping turn things sideways. Them and the Fabian Socialists and the Democrats are a whole nother ball of wax. So with Alaska, with it not being properly settled as a nation equal state, what you have happen is people who know about the common law, know about God's law, knows about how states are actually supposed to be formed and admitted to the Union. They went out there and assembled, we the people in assembly, as you hear me and Vex and others talk about, not only assembled, they settled, and Alaska is under a de jure general jural assembly, which means they can assemble and provide government oversight, as well as form grand juries de jures to have trials or to create indictments and make sure that corrupt corporate governance doesn't go roughshod over the people. And what is that you have on the screen? Is that the same thing? Yes, it is. Excellent. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the view VEX has. I'm looking at the actual one posted on alaskadejure.org. You will find it also reposted on national-assembly.net or national-assembly.net, whatever you want to call that little, vertical or a horizontal line. But the point is these are posted on, websites. They're on their own domain, etc. And you're going to find these notices are going to stay up for quite a while because A, they were done right, and B, they are evidence of what the folks at National Assembly teach people to do. They're teaching you guys to come together to get your state general jural assemblies running, form your county general jural assemblies, and when the time is right and you have enough of them, you can finalize settling your state. You'll go out of interim status and into a de jure form of government. So here we go. The heading from March 14th, 2022. Greetings, Services Contract Administrator Michael Dunleavy. We, the Alaskan people, have concern over current events that affect Alaskans. The Alaska General Jural Assembly is exercising eminent domain over Alaska's lands and minerals not privately owned. A corporation cannot lawfully own land, therefore cannot control any lands outside of delegation. The only federal jurisdiction within a state is over non-state military depots, ammunition magazines, and of certain government buildings. This includes the state of Alaska, a private franchise corporation unlawfully owning land. You are instructed as a public servant to cease taking orders from Washington, D.C. and any other federal agency. You are to take orders from the Alaskan people whom you serve. Given current revelations that have come to light regarding DoD funding of biolabs for nefarious use with and by the Biden administration et al., we Alaskans do not sanction without well-established facts others, Russia, who are obtaining evidence and presenting evidence of these crimes to the world at large. Do not aid and abet the enemy by attacking the investigators. Russia historically has always been a trading partner with Alaska, and Russia has shown no negative action toward Alaska. Russia protected the original 13 colonies from France and England during the 1700s and guarded our western shores from Britain during the Civil War. You, as a public servant, are instructed to immediately issue a retraction of your statements that encourage negative thoughts, equal actions against Russia, and retract your call for Alaska State Organization to divest all Russian assets. You are instructed as a public servant to issue an executive order to prosecute all news agencies broadcasting invalid or biased propaganda news to the Alaskan people when Alaskan people are injured as a result. You are instructed as a public servant to issue an executive order to prosecute any fact checker that cannot validate any fact when Alaskan people are injured as a result. To promote Alaska's energy independence, you are instructed as a public servant to provide fuels for the Alaskan people at a reasonable cost by activating all Alaska's oil wells and refineries. ConocoPhillips Willow Project is to be reactivated now. The ANWR ban is now declared dissolved due to no proper constitutional issues exist to justify a ban. Fill the pipeline. CJS, Volume 38A, page 340. There cannot be a grand jury de facto when a grand jury de jure is present. We, the Alaskan people and assembly. How you liking that, Vex?
Oh, I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot.
Yeah, did you notice us being fans of Smith Mundt? There was a piece that instructs regarding media there.
Yes.
Yep.
That I like a lot. Yeah. Now, for those of people who don't know, what is this exactly?
This, well, to start with, is not just Alaska General Assembly that's already been instructing Dunleavy. Dunleavy's done stuff for them, but he's been kind of sluggish moving his heels, you know? This
Hmm.
essentially is telling him to get the sand out of his butt and get moving. But on top of that, they are making it very clear. They are exercising eminent domain over Alaska's lands and minerals not privately owned. That is actually a huge deal. If they were in the wrong, they would have. This was March 14th. If they were in the wrong publishing this and posting this, they've already been rounded up and shot. You know, this would have been the equivalent of a mutiny, of treason, of sedition by claiming a domain over the
Hmm.
land, etc. They would have gone to jail. The sheriffs or the cops would have already rounded them up. Alaska has done things correctly. Oops, they are not facing jail for this. We got some delay feedback. It sounds
That
like
was my
everything good on
fault.
your side. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
everything's good.
cool. So Alaska is telling Dunleavy do X, Y, and Z, and that's because the X, Y, and Z also fit with a bigger picture with National Assembly, but also Alaska stated on our conference calls that people are invited to join on Thursday nights. Again, national-assembly.net. The conference call information is there. It's free education. You do yourself a disservice by not listening in and at least learning. If you're a history nerd like I was, you'll enjoy it just for that context. Uh,
Hmm.
this here is giving Alaska instructions and is a template other states can use and read when they are assembled to give such instruction. They've done it the right way. They've stated the history behind things, but they kept it brief. They kept it to the point. I always say the more words you add, the more you can have lawyers mess with you. And this is less than a. This is what, maybe a page, Vex. I mean, on my screen, it's less than a page easily.
Yeah, it's basically a page.
Yeah, you guys who know about the fonts, you'll notice it's in blue font. That's a class unto itself. We can touch on later. You'll
On
notice.
my screen, it's actually in black font, but
Oh, that's is that
the,
on
the
National you're
original is
looking at?
no. This is one I downloaded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the original that's published for the world on alaskadejure.org is in the blue font. So if you guys download it or modify it to your websites, it may come up a different color, but as long
Right.
as the source is correct. So I'm reading along here, and the key thing, if you notice, is we got Russia in the media with the hype with that. And remember, there are bases and things in Alaska. Now, can Alaska mess around with what are the military bases, the depots, things of that sort? You'll notice it says only federal jurisdiction within a state is over non-state military depots, ammunition magazines, and certain government buildings. So they're saying they're not going to interfere with the military, but everything else is to stay as is and to not instigate any issues with Russia. Remember, you can see Vladivostok on certain nights from parts of Alaska. You know, just put a telescope out and you can see the Russians, not physically, but their lights, you know, their aircraft taking off, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Again, they are very close together. So the people pushing for war are putting the Alaskan citizens at risk. This here is telling Governor Dunleavy, don't push for the war, get rid of the propaganda, and make sure nothing from Alaska is doing anything obnoxious towards the Russians. And to be honest, I think Putin has no intentions of doing anything negative to the Russians. But I wanted to highlight this. This was meant as a template for people to observe and look at and to see what can be done, how to word it, how to do it, keep it brief. You'll notice sometimes we'll talk about ego mind versus heart mind. This is all heart mind. This is all written. We, the Alaskan people, Alaska General Assembly, State of Alaska, we, the people in assembly. You will notice nobody has put their name on the document. Rather, it is the will of the people. There's nobody going around crowing saying, I wrote this, or I wrote this line, or I do this, or I do that. So I'm going to take a pause here, Vex, while you field some questions from the chat and maybe even your own questions. And then we're going to go on to the next document because we're going to go from the right way and then we're going to analyze the wrong way.
Yeah, well,
Emphasis is my
this
wrong.
is actually something that I'm kind of interested in as far as making the distinction. Whenever the assembly does something, they do it as an assembly. They don't do it as an individual, because individuals can be picked off quite, well, we'll just say figuratively and literally. So we the people, we the Alaskan people in assembly, that is a governing body instructing their servants, and I mean that literally, instructing their servants to do something. And this is what the assembly is about. This is self-governing. This is a perfect example of it. The distinction in going after something individually, say fighting the courts or fighting the traffic courts about tickets or something like that. That's individual. Now, we can all do that independently. But when we come together in assembly, it carries all the weight. All of it. As a group of people stand and essentially say in unison the same thing, it is powerful. And this is exactly what this requisition, I guess, is. It is a requisition, correct?
I believe so, or it would be a notice. The
Right.
way I look at it is it's technically it's both. Because it's posted publicly, that would make it a notice. Because it was sent to Dunleavy by name, it's a requisition as well. It's instruction, it's orders. And that's the key thing, guys. We, the people in assembly, at least up in Alaska at the General General Assembly, they're giving Governor Mike Dunleavy, the governor of the largest state in our union, instructions. I'm down here in California. We're the third largest state. Wouldn't you guys like to see, if you know any Californians, send them my way, because the sooner we get California to this level, the sooner we can boss Newsom around. And he won't be able to say a thing about it if we do it correct. And
Also want
trust
to
me.
point out,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just going to sell the point about Newsom being bossed around, because he already knows with a recall election, his time is short. And I mean that in a biblical sense as well.
All right.
Good.
What I wanted to point out here is what I have highlighted. Contract administrator, not governor. Governor is a term used by, well, the crown. The governors are from that. Contract administrators are actually what they are, what they're supposed to be. Now, a contract administrator is somebody who, well, I'll put it simply. If I'm a contract administrator, my boss would give me instructions to do what I'm supposed to do, and then I'm supposed to go do it, or he can fire me, replace me. It's the same thing as, going to work. Essentially, that's a contract between you and whoever you're working for, saying that you are going to be there at this time to this time and do this amount of work. If you don't fulfill that, you get fired, replaced. This is the same thing under this. Contract administrator is basically we the people's lackey. We have all the power. Sean, would you like to continue on, or do we got more on this one?
That's well said, Vex. We actually should do a class later on that on service contract administrator and that wording. You've highlighted it. We can get more deep dive into that, but that's not fitting within tonight's topic. 100%. I don't want to get lost in the weeds, because we're going to do that in a second on the document that's coming up as a contrast. Now, I want to point out within the second line, a corporation cannot lawfully own land, therefore cannot control any lands outside of delegation. Now, I'm currently reading some historical stuff regarding the United States military and how they were able to get their bases and their land. But outside of that, Congress was giving no other land delegated. Washington, D.C., those of you who know, it's corporation. Corporation of the United States cannot lawfully own land. If we use this wording is reiterating that. A lot of folks out there have wanted to debunk my point on USA being a corporation. If it is, then darn, I keep finding all these court cases, and Dun and Bradstreet gives them a credit rating, and Barack Obama got our credit rating from AAA down to AA. So I guess I must be crazy if I think a corporation, has offices, has bureaus like a Federal Bureau of Investigation, has a department, has assets like military assets and spy assets. Oh, wait. And then you also have a credit rating, huh? If something didn't exist, it wouldn't have a credit rating. So, yeah, for those who do want to argue against that point, you guys are done lost. The battle's out there. United States Corporation has a credit rating, as does every state, as does your embassies in the State Department. And see, that's the thing. When we start getting that corporation, those weeds and the laws and stuff, we're starting to get back into the realm of what we call the de facto governance. And the problem is there's some people who want to weave in and out. And in doing so, they are going to get you caught up in a bad time. I believe Four Corners Reports is down in our comments. He knows too well the evil that can come about from that. He is someone who got to witness firsthand a group called the Colorado Nine that got railroaded by somebody giving them bad information, who then skipped town. So, basically, Vex, you and me have had the pleasure of knowing firsthand someone who saw things done just slightly incorrectly. Up until that point, things were rocking and rolling, but it just took a little bit of bad info to turn things sideways. And what I saw today, our friend Scrimshaw in the chat, because patriots look out for each other. Scrimshaw saw in a Patriot forum, it's the girls that are involved with Bonds for the Win. They have a forum also called Our Great Awakening, and it's a Telegram channel. It's 30,000 subscribers, getting near 31,000. So I'm looking at this, and Scrimshaw did good. She found that we have a party who's known for using various aliases, who put out her own notice. And her notice, it could potentially, if all 30,000 of these people believed it, get them all in jail if they follow through with it. This woman is known infamously as Anna von Rice, with the, what was it, American State, I don't even know what her group's called anymore. American State Nationals, or what is it, guys? Help me out here. That's how irrelevant.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
that's
know
how
her as
irrelevant.
AVR and
Yeah.
Anna von Rice.
Well, she's changed names and infiltrated so many groups in and out that to me she's like a chameleon, which is kind of a cold-blooded comment to make, ha. But the thing is if she's in and out of all these different groups and or pulling the strings behind them, like she's the mentor of one David Straight. I'm not saying this, guys, to say she's a terrible person. I'm saying this to say she's a very terrible person. She is
Evil.
misleading now a new crop of young people. Go ahead, Vex.
No, I was just adding the comment. This is evil. I mean, I know a lot of people have trouble comprehending the fact that there is evil in this world, but this lady is attached to people that are just like her, and quite frankly, this may upset a few Christian types, but all the way to the Vatican, which is not working for us. I'll go ahead and yield on that.
Well, thank you. That whole Rome trying to do the Sacred Heart for Russia, the Sacred Heart of Mary for Russia, looks to me like Rome's trying to absorb Russia, which is very puzzling. And that's another rabbit hole we're going to have to look down and find out what the results, if they finish that particular ritual, what that will mean for Russia. Maybe Rome's trying to declare it rules over Russia and Russia is outlaw, or Putin is an outlaw. But that's me speculating on rudimentary knowledge. Right. This issue with Anna von Rice, it's not that she just swore a oath, a blood oath to the Vatican and all that. That's on page 526 of her blog, or her notices she put up. I'm not so concerned with that. I'm concerned with people who should know better and have better knowledge, willingly give out flawed knowledge to the people and push it as legitimate. And earlier we said heart mind. It was about, the group and we the people doing great. This notice that I'm looking here in Our Great Awakening, with 30.8K subscribers potentially seeing it, this notice is ego mind. And why is that? Because we're going to start right off the bat, reading it right the way they wrote it. Declared by, semicolon, James Clinton Belcher. So right there, declared by a name. For those who do not know, Mr. Belcher is connected to child abuse. There was a background check ran on him. So it's not defamation. It's not us doing Pizzagate. It's on record. Anyway, James Clinton Belcher, head of state for the United States of America. I'll just let that sink in for a second. And Anna Maria Reisinger. You see the Anna and the Rice in there, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crafty. Anna Maria Reisinger, fiduciary for the United States of America as of this 23rd day of March in the year of 2022, and so said, so signed, and so sealed. You know, the whole "so let it be written, so let it be done" type stuff.
Right.
Let's. We're only one sentence in, guys. Let's look at this. We have a child abuser, and Anna von Rice, and there's a personality out there. The only thing that really sticks with me that she ever said that's right is titles and tiaras. We have a head of state for the United States of America and a fiduciary for the United States of America. Titles. Who takes titles, folks? Do we the people take titles?
Nope.
Now, it's not a title of nobility, so they skirt that, but it is a title. Last I checked, head of state. So let's look at it this way. They capitalize the letters. That sounds like a corporation to me. I could be wrong. Why would you capitalize those letters? See, United States of America that we want is lowercase letters. We don't want the corporation, folks. We want to fire the corporation and replace it with "we the people" in assembly and restore God's law and use the Constitution to govern corporations so they don't go out of line. Well, aside from these little titles, folks, here's the thing. Who elected them? Remember, I've only read one sentence here. How many questions have I asked so far? In terms of rhetoric, I'm what, half a dozen questions already?
Yeah.
Who elected Mr. Belcher? I'm using Mr. since he wants to be in the de facto. Who elected him head of state for the United States of America? Who elected or appointed Anna Maria Reisinger, Anna von Rice, Anna von Belcher, et cetera, who appointed her as fiduciary for the United States of America? Nonetheless, on March, as of this 23rd day of March in the year. So this must have happened a couple days ago that she got this appointment. And her husband, he also got a title. Wait, they're married. They're in the same structure, and they have titles in the structure. That's immediately what we call a conflict of interest, nepotism, cronyism. You can't have two families working in the same management branch at your local Del Taco, let alone your military, let alone, Walmart, or let alone Universal Studios. Take your pick. Oh, hey, Mr. Smith, yeah, your wife is downstairs, and so-and-so employee, is up for promotion. Your wife, says that, he's no good. What's the dude going to do? He's going to side with his wife versus, reading over the guy's resume. So we have ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, within their own first sentence, they admit, yes, they use the fake last names to create the illusion of separation, but that's the problem. They were married. As far as I know, they still are. So right there, we have a fraud committed upon anyone reading and believing this.
Right.
Now, I hate that I have to say that, Vex, but you can see what I'm reading, right? It came up in your inbox when I sent you that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up to put it on screen.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have someone essentially committing a fraud under the guise of patriotism, under the guise of the founders, under the guise of trying to restore your common law rights, and they totally went off the rails within one sentence. And I'm not the biggest English scholar, constitutional scholar, none of that. Don't ever think that I am. I still am learning things. But I could look at this and pick that apart with less than what, 2 years of knowledge, Vex? How long we been at this? Maybe 2 years?
Yeah, right around 2 years.
Yeah. They introduce themselves, then add titles in the introductions. And as of that date, it's hard to figure out with the use of the commas whether they're saying they got those titles on 23rd March or if that's the date they're declaring. Maybe it's both. I'm being a little facetious there, but these folks have committed a fraud, or at least cronyism, bare minimum. And I really would love to know, where's the body that voted for them? Why didn't my different streams? I'm over 50 Telegram channels, guys. Trust me, it's very annoying to have to daily clear out all the gunk from your phone's memory for all those Telegram channels. But where was this notice, or where were these votes to give them head of state and fiduciary as their titles? Or did they just give it to themselves? Are people following them? Yeah. Now, let's go ahead. I'm harping on just one sentence. Let's go into the next one, ladies and gents. As of midnight GMT on 24 March 2022, all rights, interests, assets, and physical titles, claims, and possessions of the United States, Incorporated, and its franchises and derivatives, and all similar rights, interests, assets, and physical titles, claims, and possessions of the United States of America, Incorporated, and its franchises and derivatives, both insolvent, incorporated, foreign debtors, revert to the ownership and possession of the United States, our national government, and the United States of America, our unincorporated federation of states, which are the priority creditors of these corporations and their respective jurisdictions. It's a mouthful. I almost want to say it's word salad, but there is a point to what they wrote here. Now, I'm looking at my clock. It is 10 p.m. California time, March 25th, 2022. So they are saying as of midnight on March 24th, essentially, let's look at this again, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of a big word. They are declaring the United States Inc. and USA Inc. as insolvent. Okay, we have a national debt still as of 10 o'clock, as far as I know. As far as I know, we have our fiat currency is still in our bank accounts, or at least the digits are. So if we're bankrupt, why haven't our banks 24 hours later deleted everything? Or why haven't we had run on the banks today, guys? And of course, they are trying to finagle this around. I almost read this as if they're trying to basically take everything and immediately put it under the Federation of States. To me, that is essentially a declaration that could put them in jail if they don't know what they're doing. And just by time limit alone, these things have not happened. This did not kick in. So it's not just a fraud matter, guys. If you're honestly believing in everything, this is like saying right now that Nasara and Gassara kicked in yesterday. I'm looking around. I didn't see it kick in.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah. So, some ideas we like and everything, but the way that was written was not well done. And who are they? Again, what is their standing, and who are they to declare those bodies insolvent? Yes, a lot of us have done the math, follow the Fed Reserve, etc. We know it's insolvent on paper, but who gets to pull the trigger? Is it a couple of individuals with titles, or is it we, the people in assembly, that get to tell the government what to do? I asked that rhetorically, but it's a very strong point. Let's move forward. As of this date and time, these incorporated entities have ceased to exist. Really? Someone better tell, someone better tell a lot of people that are expecting their paydays in the next couple of days, right? And only the principals remain. Well, technically, we'd all be the principals, but that's another debate, another time. Please understand that our respective American governments are the priority creditors of all British, territorial, municipal, United States persons, including incorporated entities of all kinds. Vex, do you know what stood out to me in that particular line and why I'm furious about people being misled about it?
Actually, there's like 3 or 4 things. But first thing that came to my head was municipal United States persons. That Yeah. And then right after that, the next sentence, including incorporated entities of all kinds.
Yeah. Not to mention the idea of persons being falsehoods, so it should have been municipal United States service contract administrators. I would have let them get away with that, not have picked at it. But here's the thing, priority creditors of all British territorial.
Oh,
You
I went
see,
right past that. Oh, shit.
yes, someone who's working for the Vatican is going to point you at the crown, as you will see. They're not going to point you that all the roads lead to Rome. So she kind of skipped over, Rome holding influence over us. You guys ever look up the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, where Mexico is ceded to the United States? Rome is involved in that. They're involved in the Treaty of Paris, the Louisiana Purchase, a lot of government treaties, either as an arbiter, a referee, or a party. Why is that? Why are they trying to, have the Sacred Heart of Mary prayer for Russia and trying to get all their bishops and archbishops and everyone to show up with Pope Francis? Which ironically, people are like, wait, they're going to make the Pope actually do something that's a Christian ritual? Of course, that could go sideways, guys. Watch out for the false flags there. But this here, she didn't link Rome or predatory others or, foreign powers. She just kind of threw the British territorial part. I'm just like, oh, that's cute. She only knew, how divvied up this country is and how many different factions own parts of this country. So let's move along. These corporations, their franchises, successors, derivatives, and assigns are hereby nationalized under the due course of international law and by operation of law that returns all delegated powers to the delegates upon contractual failure to perform. Now, let's assume some of these groups are public-private partnerships or might not even be what we call government businesses. Like Booz Allen Hamilton was the contractor for the NSA when Ed Snowden was there. So we're going to nationalize Booz Allen Hamilton, which means we take it out of the shares of the stockholders' hands. Guess what, ladies and gents? You just did a fascist government move and created a socialist communist state by taking the people's, taking property from private citizens and giving it to the government. So that right there was kind of like, Now she did say under the due course of international law. Has anyone watched how the United Nations and the globalists are functioning? Taking things from from many and giving it to a few. So anyway, that returns all delegated powers to the delegators upon contractual failure to perform. Now I wanted to point out that too, delegated powers to the delegators upon contractual failure to perform. Failure to perform, what is that standard? Has the United States military, for example, failed to perform the job of keeping us safe? Well, that's a debate. Southern border is open, but at the same time, they still got people on base, manning the watchtowers. So what's the performance standard? Nothing is cited here. This is legalese that a lawyer would jump into and just literally shred this document apart. Yeah. Continues. This is the direct result of gross breach of trust and violation of commercial service contract, fiscal incompetence, and numerous acts of crime against the American people and states who are owed good faith and service from these organizations and other principals who are actually contractually responsible for them. Notice to agents is notice to principals. Notice principals is notice to agents. That's just some legalese saying, hey, you're giving them notice and everybody's supposed to pay attention. I don't mind that. It's the angle of fiscal incompetence. Okay, well, how do we define competence? See, Anna von Rice likes to go and have her people go in and out of the courts. Well, sometimes she likes to mix up that de facto nonsense, and you may eventually find yourself stuck with an attorney. You're stuck with an attorney, you're clearly not competent in the court. But that's happened to people around her. Well, just saying.
An attorney will be provided for you, of course.
Or that. And then numerous acts of crime against the American people and states who are owed good faith and service from these organizations. Okay, here's the thing. Define the acts of crime. If these people are actors and they are doing what their job description is, even if it's negative against the people, who was responsible for drafting the legislation and giving them government, who's responsible for giving government oversight so that these crimes don't get embedded, as statutes and as different derivatives of law so that they become ingrained and become ritualized. Again, because the people have gone to sleep, and have not assembled, we now have crimes where there are no victims.
Yep.
So to totally, place this on the lap of people she is vaguely naming is not exactly something she's doing in good trust. To me, this is a word salad paragraph in here that was tossed in here and not necessarily needed. Like, when you add an extra paragraph to a school paper, your teacher might dock you for that paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
So she continues from there, and I know we're going to wind down, folks. It's not a big deal here, but actually, it's 2 pages, so we it looks like we're going to go longer. This is also your international notice that Federal Reserve notes are a domestic currency of the British Territorial United States. See, say that again, British Territorial United States. Ain't that interesting? That have been misused and misrepresented as international currency and which have been passed off as currency of our country, the United States. These notes are not the reserve currency, which remains defined as the American silver dollar. Federal Reserve notes have been funded via imposition of an undisclosed scheme to extract the value of labor from living people, resulting in both enslavement and involuntary peonage. Federal Reserve notes cannot serve as legal tender as they are value based upon criminal activities. Now, that right there, folks, in spirit, it's correct. In wording, that's not something you want to put out there because, again, if we the people are not telling our officials to return us to proper currency and doing it the right way, then they're going to issue fiat currency. We're going to continue to have the Treasury or the Federal Reserve mishandling our affairs if we don't give them the correct direction. Now, are they doing criminal activities? Of course they are. It's fiat currency, as we said.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Have we the people actually said, hey, we're not taking this paper into the bank anymore? Remember, at the very start of this document, they declared that the U.S. is insolvent. Well, our number one export right now is that dollar. So if we're insolvent, I have a feeling no one's going to use that dollar. And yes, we're seeing stuff pointing in that direction, but that is a little bit more nuance. Let's see here. The next paragraph, all production of Federal Reserve notes must cease as of midnight GMT, 24 March 2022. Properly serialized Federal Reserve notes will be repatriated and exchanged for new American silver certificates for domestic use on a one-to-one basis and with a new international currency species backed by refined petroleum and with gold-backed unidollars, which will serve as an additional reserve currency benefiting all countries worldwide. Lawful coinage will also be reissued under the authority of our unincorporated Federation of States doing business in 1776 as United States of America. Now, that's, again, kind of funny. She capitalized United States of America. Also, she capitalized Federation of States, which I thought was amusing. But has anyone swapped your Federal Reserve notes today for a new American silver certificate? Anybody? It's a one-to-one basis, guys. Heck of a bargain, right?
Well, not here.
I haven't heard about anyone doing that.
No.
Now, she put that it's backed by refined petroleum. Guys, that's the petrodollar.
Mm-hmm.
The petrodollar right now with all the oil games will be speculated and subject to market rigging. You do not throw your money onto something that is so easily manipulated. Even gold can be manipulated. I'll agree to that. But the fact is our country routinely had measures to fix gold when people started messing with the value of gold until Franklin Roosevelt confiscated all the gold and then raised the value. And I want to know where these gold-backed unidollars are. I mean, if there's a unidollar, you should be able to turn it in for a piece of gold. I know of someone, not saying any names, that took one of the old silverback dollars into a bank, and the bank did not have the silver to pay him. Technically, that makes the bank insolvent because it doesn't have the resources on hand. Like he actually had to talk to the bank manager. Yeah, there's things here, Vex, where I'm seeing her. She's ranting off these good ideas, some of them, and then some of them are just ridiculous and they have no evidence and are not moving along. And it sounds to me like she's getting people lined up for either visits from feds or visits from the Treasury, or worse, because they're gonna look around and be wanting to find this new currency. She might even print out counterfeit currency at this point. Who knows? Maybe she'll do that. Maybe she won't. But if those Federal Reserve notes are supposed to be repatriated, where in the news have they announced, hey, bring your dollars in?
Right. Well, and also, I mean, as far as I lost my train of thought. Damn. All right.
Gold, silver, currency. petrodollar manipulation by FDR, et cetera, et cetera.
It was a side note, so it didn't directly go in there. I was just, if you got something else, keep going.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move into the next thing because this basically she's trying to cram in a bunch of stuff into this notice to where it just goes off the rails by the time it's done. It is of paramount importance that everyone realize that there are two or more entities operating as the United States and as the United States of America, and these are not our country nor are they our government. They are foreign service contractors that are supposed to be working in accord with and in obedience to their constitutional obligations. But for some years now, they have operated in fraud, added unauthorized layers of bureaucracy, promoted fraud against their employers, and extended emergency powers to themselves that do not exist. See, I would have worded that as contractual obligations, kind of bring it up to speed. But for those of you who don't know, constitutions are contracts. So when we talk about the Constitution, yes, it's a contract. That's why it's used when you sworn into the military. And I have a whole rabbit hole of a class to give you guys on that later, because, like I said, I've been doing some homework. Moving along on that. Here's the thing: it is of paramount importance that everyone realize. Okay, that's an opinion, folks. When you're doing a business contract or a service contract, you don't throw an opinion in there. The only people who need to realize this are the people who want to be free and the people who get it done. Now, that could be anywhere from 3 to 10% of us. If that many of us are awake and woke, we don't need everyone realizing it. It'd be nice if they did. But in terms of practicality, this is a vague extra bit of word salad that's put in. She could just have typed, there are two or more entities operating as, and gone from there. Trimmed it up a bit. Now, in terms of working in accord with and in obedience to their constitutional obligations, that happens when we, the people, assemble and issue our directives, our notices, our requisitions, and provide that guidance. If we're not assembling, then they'll hire someone to do those jobs for them or for us, because otherwise it won't get done. They don't get reelected. So, if the trash don't get picked up because we, the people, don't tell the board of supervisors to have trash picked up every Saturday, well, guess what? The board of supervisors will be like, well, we can't leave the trash forever. We'll hire Big Al's trash instead of Big Joe's trash. And, Big Al's might charge more. If we actually had given them supervision and said, you're going to hire Big Joe's, there you go. And then the people pay less and everyone's happy. The trash gets picked up for less. But again, let's move this process along here. These persons are criminals. Now she's declaring that. You have to have a trial. Can't declare them criminals just because you dislike them. And also, we know person is a tricky word. So she's essentially saying these personas, these straw men, are criminals and are engaged in known criminal activities while acting under color of law. That we do know about. We do agree about. 18 USC, was it 241 or 242, Vex?
I'm sorry, I was reading. Say that again.
Color of law, 18 USC 241 or 242.
I believe that's 241. Ricky would probably correct us if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and that's, again, she's dabbling in some de facto stuff right there. No, you just say they're acting unlawfully. You don't have to use the color of law at all. This is unlawful. Determining whether they're a criminal or not, whether there's a crime. Were you victimized by it? Then okay, there's a crime. If you weren't, no victim, no crime. But she's trying to essentially make this like a big word salad deal to make it sound more important than it is. And pretending to either be our government or to be associated with our government so as to steal our identities and access our credit and illegally, unlawfully, and immorally use our assets as collateral to their debts. Somewhat correct on that, but that's how she recruits her people. She gets people to realize the whole Social Security, the whole birth certificate, that whole thing, and then she starts getting you guys all worked up that, hey, you have some money out there waiting for you, that sort of thing. But you have to do this, this, and this with her paperwork. So she knows to put a little red meat in there to make people want to snap for it.
Well, that's within the pattern. Real quick, I'll say. That's how they sweeten the pot. It's like a bait and switch. The best lies are filled with lots of truth. I yield.
Yeah, and Ricky corrected us. It was section 242. Thank you, Ricky.
Okay. Yeah, there it is.
It's great to have a mentor like him. If you're effing up, he'll slap you and tell you you're effing up. At least that's what keeps me on the straight and narrow. Anyway, Let's see. These debtors have then contrived to confuse our people with their citizenry so as to bring false claims of indebtedness against our good names and estates. Now, yes, they have done that, but it's pretty blatant if you're just paying attention. So, are you really confused? Eh, you know, it's taken me a while to get this knowledge, but if people just paid attention to the old schoolhouse rocks, some of this stuff was out of order, and you could say, okay, it's out of order. I'm going to go take a look and see why this stuff is messed up. And there you go. You're off and on your way. Now, those cartoons were in the late 70s, early 80s. So people have had about 40 years to figure it out. If the people are confused, it's because they're unwilling to learn and unwilling to wake up. But, can't you then blame these people for hustling us? But moving along, nobody born on American soil should be presumed to be any form of United States citizen, U.S. citizen, citizen of the United States, or municipal United States person. Now, this is the thing. If you're born in Washington, D.C., or on the federal grounds, or you take the citizenship, yes, you are a U.S. citizen, although she is putting out the point of being born on American soil. So you see that has to be defined. People have to understand that, yes, you have to be born in Washington, D.C. to be a United States citizen. Now, is that American soil? Yes and no. It was American land, then we appointed it to be the area for the Service Contract Corporation to run. So anyway, and then of course it became a different venue, as we saw with the Organic Act 1871, and that's again another class, another day. Anyway, all United States district attorneys are to be on call and required to produce admissible and verifiable evidence in all district court cases necessary to ascertain the actual political status of defendants, and are also required to prove voluntary and knowing acceptance of federal citizenship obligations on the part of defendants in order to establish jurisdiction for any district court or enfranchised state superior court. And then it has YouTube, limiting characters, and the rest. And you'll notice that URL, folks, is from Bonds for the Win on Telegram. T.me is the Telegram site. So Bonds for the Win is posting up her stuff. They are operatives for Anna von Rice. And I want to go back here. If your district courts and your district attorneys had to keep all this paperwork for each defendant, there would be no room in the prisons or in the jails or in the courthouses for all these people. There's a lot of paperwork regarding each and every person because our courts are flooding with cases, trivial cases and, major cases, felonies and misdemeanors. If they were actually learned and doing what National Assembly is proclaiming, getting rid of all the misdemeanors, the victimless crimes, you would flush so many cases out that in theory this could happen. They're not giving that type of instruction here. They're just saying, oh, you have to have all this paperwork with people. So kind of, in a way, creating their own brand of paper terrorism by flooding people with papers versus what we're doing at national-assembly.net, where we're promoting if there's a victimless crime, the person doesn't get charged because it's not a crime. No victim, no crime. You don't need to have all that documentation in court case. So your courts are open back up versus trying to willfully flood them, which means the people who are stuck in the system, who do need a trial, who may actually be innocent, but, are going to exercise their rights in that venue in the de facto, well, they're screwed over because of all this proposed documentation and paperwork here. And that's been one of the things with AVR. She starts getting you guys out there in cyberspace or in the real world to sign up for her stuff. Once you've put that pen to paper, I always say with no pen, there's no penalty. You sign up for something, there's always a pro and a con. You take an oath, it means you're promising to do something, and you sign off. You sign a check, you're guaranteeing money's in your banking account for that check. You put your appellation, your signature on a traffic ticket, you're agreeing to show up in that courthouse. There's always something that comes about the second you take pen to paper or quill and ink to parchment.
That's true.
So this document here, folks, this is, I'm not putting it on blast to say, look at me, I know so much. I'm putting on blast because if you're going along with this, you're going to be turned sideways. Anna von Rice is giving you all of this declaration and it means nothing. It does not address you to direct a snake, you have to take a little stick with a fork on it and put it on the back of the head of the snake and move him along, and then you can let him out your door, out of the house, or deeper into the woods after you take him off the road. You don't just say, hey, snakes, you're going to do this. Alaska took the service contract administrator, Governor Dunleavy, the de facto body that's there, and gave guidance to the head of that snake and said, do this, this, and this. You will do this and this. Not a vague body corporation group. One big mistake is Miss AVR's practices is she goes after groups and she goes after the positions. Those are straw men. People can be fired from those positions or quit, and then you're left holding a bag because there's nothing to sue. Versus the individual, the person on the land who knowingly or through a lack of due diligence, which is even to me a bigger offense, committed a crime violating your God-given rights, your constitutional rights, your state constitutional rights, however you want to parse it. These people should know what they're doing before they, interact with you. So if she's giving this vague body, let's just pick one of them, for example, she's addressing Federal Reserve notes. So she's trying to call shots on the Federal Reserve. Well, if she's giving them instruction, who at the Federal Reserve picks up the phone and follows the instructions? Versus, say it was Obama era. Hey, Tim Geithner, you're going to do this, this, and this because you're the boss and you have to answer we the people. Well, there you go. Now you have a chain of command. You have someone responsible. Things will get done. Or you say, I believe Janet Yellen was a Fed chairman at one point. You say, Janet Yellen, you're going to do this, this, and this. Now get it done. That is the difference between someone misleading we the people and someone at the same time giving proper guidance and a proper template for people to look at and use. So we're going to see things coming about. We've had 24 hours in regards to Miss Belcher here, or excuse me, Miss, what is the new name? Reisinger. She's had time. We are going to see either Governor Dunleavy is going to comply with the Alaska General Assembly or not. And we can compare it and see what happens to our currency, which should have happened as of the 24th, a day ago. So, you guys, if you get together in your assembly, make sure you guys stay on the right path here. Don't get yourself obsessed into the de facto. Learn the knowledge, learn the processes, learn the wording, because you will need some of those tools, but they should not be your main goal. Your main goal should be getting constitutionally minded individuals and people who want to know what the founders were thinking as they built that Constitution, and more so just people who are in line with God's law. Get them on board, get your stuff going. And if you like more knowledge like this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to VEX Warfield. I intended to make this class 30 minutes. I went a little long tonight, so I do apologize for those of you who have stayed till the end. But I felt that, this type of stunt by Von Rice using bonds for the win as a front and then putting out this declaration. I'm still waiting for Gasara Nasara currency, folks. You can't tell a government what to do until we, the people, have lawfully assembled. National-assembly.net. We need 38 states on the board. That way it's not a dictatorship. That way it's not, Alaska calling the shots or Michigan calling the shots. It's we, the people, across this whole country calling the shots. We've already gotten 12 states that have assembled and published notice. Let's keep it going. Vex, you got anything for me before we wrap up?
I just wanted to add a little thing. These people have, this is not a new thing. What we were just talking about with Anna Von Rice or AVR, whichever you want to call it. This is not new. The assembly has tried to start up before and has gotten blasted by these people. And it's just by fooling you. They fool you. They tell you just enough truth so that you won't suspect the lies. Critical thinking is paramount, and doing your due diligence and figuring out what this is and the difference between it will help you greatly, even in your everyday life. It'll teach you to look at things in a different way. They have us right now, and I speak from experience, They have us right now thinking in the de facto way. And the de facto way is their way, the corporate way. We can't get caught up in that, because once we invite it into our assembly, it takes over like cancer and it will destroy it. So we have to be mindful of the tricks they play. They're not going to stop. World domination, New World Order. The Pope owns everything he surveys. You know, this is all stuff that they want. They want to put us. Depopulation. We're at war, and this is the enemy, and all that are attached. If we don't come together and do what we should have done 100 years ago, what we should have kept doing from 1776 on. But if we don't do this, they win, and there will be no freedoms left. Because, quite frankly, the next generation, they're not even going to know what their freedoms are. They won't be taught any of it. They won't even be taught math. They will be drones. And that will be the future of the human race. Now, I know I'm sounding like Mr. Doomsday and all, but the assembly gives us hope because it puts us on the right path. It continues what our founding fathers started. And I don't care what is said about them in the news, but those were some very, very smart guys. Very, very smart guys. They saw all this coming because they were dealing with it then. So they wrote it in the Constitution. They wrote it into the Declaration. All these documents. That these are instructions for them, not for we the people. And with that, we've gone over an hour. And I would encourage those of you who showed up partway through, check out the first half. We started out with actually some good news. Little report on, something Alaska's been, a requisition that Alaska has written. And I think you'll like it. Like I said, I encourage you to go ahead and check that out. It was the first half. And got anything else you'd like to throw out there, Mr. StRyKeR?
Well, Four Corners Report is proposing Discord after you shut down. And I would say, Vex, you have your Discord link in the chat, or are you able to post that?
Yep, just one sec.
Cool. I'll go to do a general chat. There's all other kinds of tidbits I got, but I wanted to keep tonight kind of just front and center. And like our friend out there, your fellow friend in Missouri, Hayden, he's going to love some of the stuff I found with Andrew Jackson and the 1800s and stuff. So there's a lot of guys, there's just so much you don't know until you actually sit down and read it, and then you understand this is why this guy decided this, that led to this, and here's this de facto element from Rome through the British, etc., why they did this and this and this. As I told Vex before we start this, for example, when Andrew Jackson was in Florida and the Native Americans were being worked up, he found 2 British spies. So who do you think was working up the Native Americans? You think they were mad? Or the Spaniards were mad? No, it's the British spies getting them to work against us. So, he got chewed out for having them hung, but back then that was the treason for spying. Oh, and to bring it fast forward, what's the treason for, or what's the penalty for spying today? Who do we know in government that's been spying on one Donald John Trump?
No, we already know that spies drive around our senators and
or they date them.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Thank. What a name. Oh man. Yeah, if we don't get this done, people, we're really going to be screwed either by the Chinese or by, some other faction of a technocracy. Who knows? Maybe Putin will get tired of waiting for America to lead the way and he'll conquer us just on principle.
Well, you
Yeah.
kind of have to look at what's going on kind of like that already. I think he's gotten tired of it and he saw his opportunity, so he started hitting at these globalists. I mean, all you have to do is look at the targets he went after, the specific targets he went after. And
Well,
this,
it was Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. You have those nukes in Kazakhstan and Ukraine from the Cold War that were not secure, plus biolabs. It's like having that off, in Cuba, off the coast of Florida and the continental U.S. by a few minutes by rocket. It's like I wouldn't let that for Tijuana right now. I found out something like that was going on in Tijuana. I'd be calling March Air Force Base, being like, "Why aren't you guys doing airstrikes?" Oh, and other news, Drag Queen Storytime, April 2nd in Riverside, California at Cellar Door Books. Google them, find them, call them, express your displeasure. I've already let Fox News know, as well as my area commander for the Riverside Police Department. So I'm trying to get that shut down. If you guys think drag queens should be with kids, great, but not in my neighborhood. You
I
got to make a
hate
difference. You got to
clowns.
do it local. I hate clowns in action. Did I say that out loud?
Well, see, that's the whole thing about this. We can put a stop to all this insanity, all this mental illness. We can get rid of it once we the people assemble and self-govern. That's what this is all about. This is exactly what they don't want you to do. Self-governing is our individual duty as human beings, as children of God. I mean, do you really think that we're supposed to be under someone's thumb? No, no. I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. And that's the whole deal. As long as I don't hurt anyone else, I should be free to do as I please. And that's where morals come in. And that's when listening to your gut comes in also. You know what's right and wrong. This is the only right I've seen. Now, if you got something better, please let me know. But be prepared for me to poke all kinds of holes in it. Because, that's what I do. And I'd like to take a step back real quick to this Russian situation. I haven't been live in a long time, and I haven't actually given my 2 cents on it. So I think I'll go ahead and take my opportunity now.
Real quick, Bex. Just for Shelley, for Veritas, yeah, the spying done at Project Veritas, kind of your namesake there. That's going to come out in the wash in the courts too. So just keep an eye on that, folks. Project Veritas is doing God's work, and they're going to get their day in court, and I think they will shine and win heavily. We're talking the wall of attractions has never shrunk; it's only grown. Go ahead, Vex.
Mhm. All right. As far as this Ukraine stuff, okay, what do we know about Ukraine? One thing is that I'm generalizing, but it has been the globalist playground, as far as I can tell. Now, all of a sudden, Putin wants parts of it back and sees all kinds of stuff being manufactured over there, things of that nature, and he goes after it because Biden's a weak fool, and plus the Democrats and even the Republicans, they want war. They want it. I mean, anything to distract them. Excuse me. Anything to distract them from the bumbling idiot that's supposed to be a president and his whole freaking cabinet of fucking retards. And pardon my language for those of you who don't like the language, but
I was gonna say Vex. Come on, man. Be nice to retards.
yeah, I know. I'm kind of putting that
Yeah,
in a bad light. Anyway,
yeah. I've worked for the Special Olympics. Biden doesn't meet that level.
well, there's a difference in, never mind. Um,
Exactly. He's like way down there in intelligence, bro. You know.
but my point is this: we can tell what's going on. Use Fox News as a gauge, since Republicans love Fox News for some reason. Um, if they are agreeing with the Brandon administration right now, how could that be a good thing?
Mm.
I mean, just that on the surface. Now we look at all these false flags that we've figured out that have actually been false flags in the past. It fits the same pattern. It is the same thing over and over because these people are, they may not be, I really want to call them stupid, but they're not stupid. They're just not very creative and not in touch with reality. So that kind of makes them stupid, but they're not stupid. They're actually intelligent people who are acting very dumb. But these patterns, they stick to the same ones over and over. We don't want something over here being noticed, so we're going to create something over here that's real flashy and will create a concern. Oh, and by the way, we can use it to push forth some sort of legislation that'll give us a foot in the door in 5 years on this piece of legislation that we want to bring up later. Bits and pieces to tear away all our freedoms. Now, that's another connection I wanted to make also, that these willful ignorance of us, we the people, is allowing this to happen. And it's because that we are not being informed. Now, we're supposed to make informed decisions. That means getting as much of the truth as possible, putting it in one big bundle and absorbing it and knowing it. We don't get that. And when was the last time all this legislation was passed down to we the people? I don't remember any. Not in recent memory at all. I mean, I didn't get to vote on any of this stuff with transgender bathrooms or any of this left wing crap. I wasn't asked. I was told. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't like being told. Now, informed decision making is something we have to hold on to very tightly because they are slowly eroding it away from everyone. Even the strongest of us, myself included, I find myself slipping into that de facto mindset because we live it every day and we have to combat it every day. I get it. I get it. But you have to figure out the line. Now, I'd be more than happy to help you guys figure it out. I just realized I was going to go start on another rant, so I think I'll back down.
Yep. Let's go over into the intro to the Assembly Discord that you provided the link for, and I will hang out there, guys, for about an hour to kick the ball around, run some ideas, and we can allow Vex, who came on a moment's notice, to be honest, to have himself some rest because he did a full day of work. I asked him, "Hey, Vex, go live." I found this thing that Scrimshaw sent me, and I want to compare it for everybody against the word out of Alaska, because the word out of Alaska got me going. Hoorah! This stuff from AVR was like, wow, that's bad. You don't. Sometimes you beat fire with fire, but you can also have the fire go crazy on you, and you get a brush fire. Yeah. And you got to know how to do exactly what you got to do in that situation. Well, this goes for these courthouse situations too. And what I'm looking at is just Bonds for the Win was used as the bright, glittery, glossy for all the people to look at. And sure enough, you're distracted from who was behind them. All the conservatives on PayPal that got censored and kicked off PayPal. Bonds for the Win wasn't kicked off. Why is that? Because they don't have an end game. They're not effective. Their point, pulling the bonds, pulling the records of these people, pulling the oaths, getting the insurance policies, yada yada. That's important. Yes, you want those because it gives you leverage. But if you don't have an end game, it tells me that they were just slapped together to essentially be a front for someone. And now we are seeing them circulate AVR's material and David Straight's material, her acolyte. So that means, guess what, guys? Bonds for the Win was a front. Case closed. Anna von Reis, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to talk about her anymore after tonight. Nail in the coffin, this notice and this trail. So up to you guys if you ever want to bring her up again, but I would say she's done. She's had her time. So just be on the lookout. Rome might send another instigator now that we're back on good footing. And congratulations if they hear this, the two states that put their notice out here in the month of March.
Absolutely.
We're at a dozen, guys, and we got more to go, but we're not shrinking. I yield. Have a good night.
Thank you very much, Sean StRyKeR from Riverside, California, giving us the down and dirty of the details that we need to know. All right, like he said a moment ago, we're going to head over to Discord and hang out there for a little bit. If you guys would care to join us, I'd pretty much enjoy you guys to hear your 2 cents on maybe some of the stuff we've been talking about. But as of right now, I need to go ahead and sign off of here. And I want to thank everyone I want to, first of all, thank Sean. Thank you very much. I know it was short notice and everything, but we rolled with it. I like to thank everybody in chat for participating. You know how I enjoy that. And if you have any comments, questions, please don't hesitate. I'll do my best to answer, whatever they might be. Just no riddles. And with that, I bid you all a good night. And hi, Susanna. We're heading over to Discord. And with that, I bid you all good night and sweet dreams. I yield.